Hey everyone, Tony D with a Hollywood hot take, I guess you'd call this. Um, Two very strange articles came out on Memorial Day. One bashed or labeled the U.S. military for Memorial Day that they were celebrating white supremacy. The other is bashing Captain America in comics. I, can you see the trend here? I mean, now you have to understand that I'm an anti-war guy, right? I mean, right? So I do the anti-war comic, and I was often accused of anti-Americanism by my detractors when doing some of my comics or going to some of the anti-war protests I went to. So, you know, it's not that I'm some sort of jingoist guy who thinks America's always right or anything, but Jesus, what is wrong with you people? It really is. The Jordan Peterson effect, I guess you'd call it, how he described cultural Marxism. In that, these people, and it goes back to a French postmodernist named Foucault, and we talk about him in Wokistan, a novel. It's all about tearing down everything. And the best way, quote unquote, to tear down things like, nationalism, let's say, or pride in your country, would be to attack it on the best day, other than maybe the 4th of July, which I'm sure the attacks will come on the 4th of July as well. So here we are. We've been in a lockdown after this beer virus. Things are finally starting to open up, at least in some states. People are defying the orders in other states just because, hey, it's the beginning of summer, F you. And you've got these tone-deaf, postmodernist media guys. Some would call them progressives. I would call them, I think they're postmodernist. I think postmodernist is probably a better label. Because I think the old-timey progressives, they were caught up in that postmodernism, but they did have their, little effects that were positive, even if they didn't mean for it to be so. But the postmodernist, there's no positive in just tearing everything down. It makes no sense to tear down Captain America, besides the fact that he's just a fictional character and who cares. But to tear him down on Memorial Day is like, just for, at this point, total shock value. So I guess what we have here is a bunch of reporters who have been so, I don't want to say brainwashed, but they've been so trained to look at everything through this postmodernist lens of like, everything that's traditional must be torn down and built back up by us. Now, they never get to the build back up part or how that would work. It's always a sort of a vague concept where everybody will be equal communism. Although they won't call it that. They say, no, it'll be, democratic socialism or it'll all be woke and wonderful. They never quite outline that because I think deep down they know they can never get there. They know the U.S. military isn't going to just suddenly surrender and go, well, you're right. Everybody pack it in. Like, that's not going to happen. Same thing with Captain America. That's not going to happen. The end result is they just end up hurting something like the Marvel Comics company to the point at which they end up committing suicide as they are now, getting woke and going broke. They're driving all these organizations to destroy themselves. That's not helping anyone. It's hurting some people. It's hurting people of all stripes. It's not just hurting, the patriarchy or whoever that's supposed to represent. It's hurting, a lot of people have jobs and they want to be in comics or they want to be in movies or whatever. It's just hurting them at random because groups of people feel that this is finally the way to get justice for everyone. And then I'll look like a good person doing that, which is more important than the rest of it, really. So, I'm not saying you should be outraged and should defend Captain America. Captain America is just a trademark. I'm not saying that the U.S. military doesn't have its problems. I've certainly criticized the U.S. military. However, these media sources that keep putting out these sort of angles have to be looked at for what they are. They're destructive, clickbaity forces within the culture that are just trying to get people outraged. And in that process, they end up exacerbating problems. So, I asked someone who, they're on the left, essentially. They're a Democrat. And I said, how many racists do you think there are in America? Like, how many people do you think are actual, full-blown racist? And the response was, I would say at least 40%. And I was just shocked. And I was just like, now, and then I was like trying to clarify, like, so do you mean like 40%? Do you mean like real racist, like wearing hoods, like doing some, bad spray painting on somebody's house, like beating up someone because they're a particular race or whatever? That level at least. And they were like, yeah, 30 or 40%. And I was just like, that is an incredibly high number, you understand. That would be hundreds of millions of people. That would be, let's see, got like 350 million people in the United States. So 20% would be 70 million. 40% would be 140 million. So like 100, you're talking about like, not quite half the country, but like 100 million people. Easy. That is not true in the least. The statistics on those kind of people, they're in the thousands, across the country. You're talking about a few, maybe if you grouped every single group together, you'd get tens of thousands of them. But that's across the country of millions of people. So, as a percentage of the population, in order to get to 1%, you'd have to have like 3.5 million people. So it's nowhere near 1%. Might be like, 0.002%, something like that. That's very low. That is very low. And we're talking about people who are like put into prison, they join a gang, they get radicalized in prison. We're talking about criminals who, as I've always told you, criminals are opportunists. So, do some of them become white supremacists? Yeah. For some of them, that's an opportunity. That's like a leg up because they're in an organization that can help them. Yeah, it's race-based and it's horrific, but from their perspective, it gives them a hierarchy to be involved with, to make connections and do things that they want to do. Criminal things, but nonetheless. There may not be other opportunities for these particular white criminals. So for them, that's something. Something is better than nothing in the view of some of these, quite frankly, scary people. But you're talking a very low percentage of people. And the perception that there's 30 to 40% of the population like that is coming from the media. It's coming from articles like this that say, my God, we are rife with racist here. It's because the entire culture is racist. Don't you see? It's hysterical. It's nonsense. The numbers just don't add up. You're talking about college kids. This is all college kids bullshit. When I was in college, it was the same thing. You had people who desperately wanted to be part of something, activism or whatever. Of course, at my college, we weren't very politically active because it was a bunch of rich kids, so they had other outlets, but when they did get politically active, they did what was popular because they were kids who went to college. And just like all kids, they wanted to be popular. So, what was popular at the time? Well, it was popular to be liberal. And so that's what they were. It was unpopular to be Republican. So they didn't dare become Republican. Now there'd be a handful that were Republicans because they sort of, reveled in that counter narrative. They wanted to be the rebel within that group. So for them, that was exciting to be Republican, just to be the odd man out kind of thing. But the vast majority of them were sheep who would just follow the current popular narrative, which was to be liberal and to be a good person and be a good liberal. And, it wasn't that they were super politically motivated. What motivated them was, hey, everybody, I'm a liberal too. You're a liberal? Oh, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you even more. That's the kind of thing that motivates these people. And now they're writing about it. And it's the same sort of mentality because they're writing to their peers as if they were back in college talking to their peers. So their peers in other publications also hire and fire people. And that's how they network and move around. That's why the same sort of people keep failing up. That's why in the world of comics, Heather Antos went from being woke at one comic company to being woke at another. Even though, in my opinion, she has no idea what she's doing. Or maybe she does have an idea what she's doing. She's just not interested in being successful in comics. She's more interested in that post-modernist agenda. So, I guess what I'm saying in this hot take is you really, really, again, have to scrutinize your media sources. I know that's kind of tough. I know it's easy just to look at CNN or Google News. But if you actually want information, you have to be more discerning, especially in the realm of entertainment. And understand that these people have this liberal mindset which was sort of rolled into the postmodernist mindset. And that started at college and got worse and worse and worse over time. And now it's super hardcore cultural Marxist. So that's why we're getting these articles. And instead of being outraged by them, instead of like rallying against them, see, they want those clicks. What you want to do is cut those media outlets out of your life. Don't trust them. Don't read them. Don't give them clicks. If you're going to give them clicks, well, you have to archive the article in, as Sticks and Hammer says, in archive.org. And you can put the link there. You just copy the link and put it there. And then it archives it. And then people can go to that link. And it's a perfect copy of the article. And they don't get the clicks for you telling people. So I'm going to try to do that. I didn't do that with the last thing I did, but that was a petition. So you needed to be on the actual live page. But I'm going to archive the two articles. One's from The Atlantic and one's from CBR. And I'm going to archive them. They'll be in the description. And again, you could see how deranged these people are. That they have to tear down everything. And understand that once they tear down this, once they get this step, then it's the next step, and the next step, and the next step. You can never be woke enough. It's never enough. Because it's not about doing X, Y, and Z and pleasing these people. It's about their ability to have power over these other institutions and be able to generate clicks and outrage, because that's how they get paid at the end of the day. So be wary, my friends.